Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krensman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in out there. We're coming to you as always from the studios, the beautiful studios, I should say, of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey, where we have updated equipment, and now the microphones all sound a little bit different. We're like,
Sound like Marvin Gaye.
I tell you, sing a nice song, put me to sleep with the quality of the equipment here. So thanks for joining. We're coming to you from Undefeated Media as always. This is episode 31 on the Spanish dial, episode number 31 of the program. And we always come to you sponsored. Thank you for the Ridgewood YMCA. Always check them out in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and we thank them for their sponsorship. You can hear the program, and chances are you're at one of these four right now, either on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, or iTunes. So we thank them for carrying the program. And of course, whenever you have questions, and there are some that we're going to get to today because yesterday was the trade deadline in the NHL, you can send us your questions at mypbshow@gmail.com. That once again, if you didn't have your pen or paper or your iPhone ready to write that down, mypbshow@gmail.com. So we thank you all for tuning in. And we welcome you to the program. Again, we went, and we talked about this last show. We went to a kind of a bi-weekly. We were doing this every week. And then my real job has gotten a little bit crazy, which it does this time of year. So we're now coming on to you every other week. So we are back, and we haven't been on for 2 weeks. And it feels like I haven't been in here in a while, right?
Yeah, half the Tuesdays are miserable and depressing.
I know. And not even that. We should send our well wishes.
And then the other half, you're not here.
Right. that
I'm just kidding.
No, that would
just kidding.
But that would be accurate. And we send our wishes out. Some of our crew is under quarantine.
Yes.
So
do you want to get into that for a second?
Well, we can talk about it. I mean, I don't want to get into, I feel like
we don't throw them under the bus.
We'll throw them under the bus. But we do have I would say a superstar who's in the studio. Yeah. This is probably the first show he's missed in 6-7 months. Well,
7 months. No, maybe this is his first episode he missed in like 5 episodes.
No, he's been
which
here
would
more
be like 2 months.
He's been here more than that because he was here at the beginning of the NHL season, beginning of January.
Brian, if you're tuning in,
so
I'm gonna text him.
Okay,
we're gonna find out.
So anyway, we
wish
him well as he is under quarantine, and we hope that he is back with us in 2 weeks when we're back on the 27th. Now, we're going to do a little bit of a kind of potpourri today. Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Potpourri?
Like a little
smelling.
No,
stuff.
like a little. I know, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Confetti?
Like a little. No, a little like mixture of everything. Potpourri.
Potpourri is
I know what it is. But I feel like I've heard. All right, maybe not.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going to do a sampling of a bunch of stuff. We're going to bring back, and we're going to start here today with some NFL. And NFL really was almost, I would say, 50% of the backbone of this program during the NFL season, with the NHL being the other half. And then since the NFL season has gone away, we haven't done much of it. But there's been 2 things in the news, and one in particular because it was a hot topic here that you and I talked about in the fall.
Yes.
And that is finally, if you want to use the word finally, I'll leave it up to you. But I'm going to say finally the Jets have decided to move on from Sam Darnold. And they did so last week, and by trading him to the Carolina Panthers. Now, this is not, I mean, look, if somebody says they were blindsided that the Jets traded Sam Darnold, I'm not sure what planet they're living on. But what is your, I'm going to start with you today. What you saw this happen last week?
We all saw this coming.
Right.
We could put that behind us. We always saw that coming, but there's so much more you could have done. Now I know we're like, what's the saying? Throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like
it's throwing the baby in the potpourri. Let's keep
throwing the baby in the potpourri. So I just don't get because we could, get a lot of other weapons. It's not just him. He's not the problem. There's a lot of other problems. So instead of starting fresh and wasting a first-round pick, and we could already have a quarterback and get the number 1 wide receiver or the number 1 running back and have more weapons. So that's my take on it.
So the Jets okay. So before we get into the what happened, let's talk about that's in the past. So what's going to happen now? We know Sam Darnold is obviously not the QB. And it's funny because if you remember the draft that he was drafted a couple years ago, he was the third pick, and Cleveland picked before the Jets at number 2, and they picked Baker Mayfield. And the Jets I didn't put out a statement, but people that were covering the draft in the media said the Jets feel like they've hit the lotto. They would have taken Sam Darnold at number 1, and he fell into their lap at number 3. And so it's typical Jets. Like, now you look at it, you look at the year Baker Mayfield had in Cleveland, which was great, and Sam Darnold really hasn't done much here at all. And you realize that everyone was right except the Jets back at the draft. So what are the Jets going to do? Well, I think it's pretty clear. Obviously, they're not picking number 1. We're not going to go down that road again. We talked about that enough with winning meaningless games to knock you out of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. The Jets are focused on Zach Wilson out of BYU, and they are convinced, as they were with Sam Darnold, so you can't believe that they're going to be right. They are convinced that Zach Wilson will be their QB of the future.
Yes. So here's my question for you. Justin Fields was projected to be like number 2, right? And there's speculation that the Dolphins maybe who is it? Who's after the Jets that are looking at a quarterback?
The Dolphins, I think, are a little bit further down.
Who's got like the 3rd pick or the 4th pick?
The 49ers. The
Right,
49ers traded up with the Dolphins.
Okay.
Yes, that's what you're looking at.
So the 49ers, there's speculation that the 49ers are like trashing Justin Fields to get him lower and lower in the draft so they can snag him up.
Well, the Jets everything that I have read seems that they are dead set on Zach Wilson. So somebody can trash talk anyone all they want, and that's not even who they want, Justin Fields. So if that's what they're doing, San Francisco, they don't even need to, because it seems like the Jets are set on Zach Wilson at number 2. Now, we do know that number 1 to Jacksonville will be Trevor Lawrence. This is probably like, if there ever was a draft where there's no drama as to who's going to go number 1, I think we all know the answer. And by the way, Trevor Lawrence got married last week. Did you see the videos online of that?
I did not see the videos online.
So congratulations to him. So he should have waited. He gets married. He gets married in the beginning of April, and at the end of April, he will be drafted number 1 by an NFL team. That's a pretty solid month.
Pretty solid month?
I would say we will never have a month like that. But anyway, so the Jets are dead set on Zach Wilson. Now look, Sam Darnold, and I have a good, probably I would say a good friend of mine, crazy Jet fan, right? He's season ticket holder. He travels to at least 2 road games a year. I mean, he's hardcore. He's upset about it. And what I said to him, I said, look, Sam Darnold didn't work here in the 3 or 4 years he's been here at all. What makes you think next year all of a sudden it's going to be different? It's not. And you know what? You pulled back some assets from Carolina. I mean, you probably could have got more if you traded him earlier. You kind of waited, and I think that kind of hurt him a bit. But Sam Darnold's not the answer. Let's take a flyer on Zach Wilson. Okay. Now, would I bet the mortgage he's going to be a franchise quarterback? No, I would not.
Okay.
But Sam Darnold wasn't the answer.
But
what's the saying?
He's the problem?
Sam Darnold?
Yes. Are you saying he's the problem? I think there was other problems. I don't think he was the problem.
Okay. What's the saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results?
Okay, but
Sam Darnold is not.
We're getting juicy today.
No, it's fine. And look,
I like this. I like this.
We can debate it, but what? Okay, so let's say you kept him here. Okay. All right. Now you have a new coach coming in, the guy from the 49ers, Robert Saleh, who was really highly rated, but he's a defensive guy, right? That's where he made his living and why he got a head coaching job. So you keep Sam Darnold here and you're bringing in a defensive coach. What is your reasons to think that next year in the 2021 season, all of a sudden lightning's going to strike and it's going to wake up?
I just think you get more by keeping him and having this high draft pick. You're going to have more weapons. He's not that terrible of a quarterback. He's not. I don't think he was the problem. I think we have other problems, like the Adam Gase was a problem. So I think we had other problems, and I don't think he was the spotlight end all of all our problems. We have a question here.
I see. Well, before we get to that question, and I see it up on the screen,
because
here's what I was going to say. The Jets have the most first and second round picks in a draft the next 2 years coming up since the New England Patriots in 1998 or 99. So they're going to have plenty of opportunities to draft people. They have picks. Now, again, That means nothing because the New York Jets are historically known, kind of in some ways like a hockey team I root for, of screwing up draft picks. So there's no guarantee. However, you're going to get a lot of little mini scratch-off tickets with draft picks, and you're going to hope that one hits. So the question that's coming in from Brian on Facebook Live is a new QB going to make a difference? Short term, probably not, right? I mean, would you think that Zach Wilson next year, Brian, in his rookie year, and he may not even be the starter because the NFL, they usually have that like 1 year that the QB is kind of second string until the Jets are like, 1-10, and then they put him in December.
So then who's starting?
But it's long term. But it's long term. It's not about
but seriously though. Who's the other quarterback?
I got it. Maybe they still have Joe Flacco for all I know. I don't know.
I think Joe Flacco got traded.
I don't.
Joe Flacco made a big stink. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be a mentor. He wants to like play.
I don't blame him. And why would you want to be a mentor?
I'm going to look this up right now for us.
And why would you want to be a mentor in this situation in this town as well?
True.
So the New York Jets. Look, I'm fine with them moving on from Darnold. Obviously, we'll cover this in depth in the fall when we do football every week. And if you remember when we do our weekly picks, that we won you money if you followed us. Dougie Sticks and I always pick the New York Jets and the New York Giants game. So we will be covering this. So a new QB,
he's playing for the Eagles.
Even worse. You know what? that team is not much better right now.
He's on the Eagles. Joe Flacco's on the Eagle. Brian, another question.
Is another question coming in? Is Mac Jones is Mac Jones the sleeper QB of this draft class? I see a high ceiling from him. Absolutely, he could be, right? But if you're the Jets, you can't take him at 2. Right. I mean, he's not. The question is not wrong. He may definitely be the sleeper. And San Francisco was rumored as well to possibly be taking him. But I don't think at the second pick you can pull that plug. Right.
Okay. I mean, I just think this league is too thirsty for quarterbacks. When there's other positions that make differences here.
But the Jets now, okay, so if it's, yes, you're right. But now that the Jets don't have Sam Darnold, whether you liked him or not, you have no QB. Okay. You have to do something.
Okay, but I'm talking like if we were in the past before we made this trade.
Do you know that in the latest NFL mock draft, now you can't believe these things. I mean, there's parts of a mock draft that are accurate, and then there's always more parts that are not. But in the last one that I saw yesterday from on SportsIllustrated.com, it had Justin Fields dropping at 15 to New England. Could you imagine that?
So that's what I'm saying. I think someone's like sabotaging his reputation to snag him
Bill Belichick, that little sneaky, sneaky dog.
So what going to the business side of things of the show.
Yes.
When the whole GameStop thing happened, everyone was going crazy about stocks and GameStop and cryptocurrency, whatever. The guy from Mad Money, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Jim Cramer.
He a long time ago, there's a YouTube of him talking about how they would badmouth and like rip on stocks, so they would drop and then they would pick them up for cheap. Like on a show, he would like talk poorly about companies, the stock would drop and they would all pick it up and then it would skyrocket.
Okay.
I think they're doing the same thing with Justin Fields. They're like saying he's not a good player. They're like making him drop. So Bill Belichick is going to snag him up.
We'll see. The NFL draft, which is in a few weeks, is always, it's far and away better than any draft. Like when the Major League Baseball does its draft, no one cares. I mean, like no one even knows. When the NHL does a draft, I mean, look, obviously we covered the draft here because the Rangers had the first pick, but it's not usually gets the press that it did this year. The NBA draft does well in June every year, like it does, especially because the Knicks suck and they're always at the top, so that generates some buzz. But the NFL draft is the premier draft to watch. Yeah. And in a couple of weeks, we will have that coming up. And hopefully the Jets do not screw up their second pick. Right?
Sure. Now with Sam, what did we get for Sam? We got like 5 draft picks.
We got you got a boatload of assets back. You didn't really take on players and contracts, which you wouldn't want to do. You got picks. So again, you took back some scratch offs. Now you maybe scratch a couple and they win, and then it makes the deal look good. That's what the Sam Darnold deal 10 years, 15 years from now will be graded on, is 2 things. One, how does Wilson do as a quarterback, but also the picks that you got back from Carolina. Who did you use those picks on, and how did those players turn out? So, and we don't have those answers now, but tune in 2 weeks, and we'll cover the draft because the draft is on April 29th. We will be back on the air after today on April 27th. So we will cover the draft that week. So One other football news, and I wasn't going to cover it. I saw it. I don't love the guy, and then you brought it up kind of before we went on the air, so we should give him some credit.
Oh, okay.
Is the retirement of Julian Edelman of New England Patriots, a guy I was never a fan of because he always, played for a team that I didn't like, and
True.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was on Miami for a little while there in his career. So he was always playing for teams that I didn't really care, but really kind of a receiver that kind of reminds me, and I'm probably insulting him saying this, like a Wayne Corbett, just like a guy who always caught what was thrown to him, never had the crazy stats like Terrell Owens or Randy Moss or any of those guys, but he just always did well, and so we wish him well in retirement.
He came in as a quarterback, so maybe that's what Zach Wilson.
Boy, you are really not sold on this, huh? Holy cow!
He came in as a quarterback. Then to a receiver.
If people, and we can email this out to people, that if people want to send you flowers or get well wishes today because you're really bent out of shape over this, we can let them know.
Bent out of shape. I think the Jets are notorious for making bad decisions.
Okay. Well, we will see. Let time tell. So we'll shift to hockey, and I'm going to start in an area we really never covered in hockey, and that is collegiate hockey. Everyone knows, and we had it a couple weeks ago, that in basketball, we have the Final Four, right? Well, do you know what it's called in college hockey?
The Furious Four.
Close.
Ooh.
Frozen Four.
Ooh.
Even better, right? So the NCAA had their Frozen Four this past weekend, and they didn't have it last year in 2020 for obvious reasons with coronavirus. And we send our congratulations out to a college that you will probably not think is synonymous with hockey, but they've actually rebuilt their program, and they won their first national title this weekend. Dougie Sticks, that college is.
Hold on.
No, peeking on Google.
You got me. I was.
It is the UMass Minutemen out of Amherst, Massachusetts, and they do play. Remember, in the Hockey East, which has perennial powerhouses like Boston College, University of Maine, Boston University, etc. So we send our congratulations out to University of Massachusetts on winning their first Frozen Four and national championship. Now, on to the NHL. So we had a bunch of questions come in. I'm going to try and run through them in somewhat of a chronological order. We're not bouncing around too much because some of them are all over the place. And we're going to start with the one that's really not related to the ice. Are you aware of what happened in Vancouver in the last 2 weeks? Since I've seen you?
Sport related?
Well, including involving their hockey team.
COVID spread.
Yes. Horrific. Look at that. Ding, 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 ding.
What did you win?
Yeah, what did you win? Dougie Sticks, you won a new bottle of whatever you're drinking over there.
Bubble tea.
It's on me next time. All right. So this is basically what happened. A player tested positive. I went back last night because I thought I understood it. And then I'm like, you know what? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But then I realized I did understand it, but it still doesn't make a lot of sense. So here's what happened. A player on Vancouver a couple weeks ago, I won't mention the name, it's out there, but there's no reason to mention who it was, tested positive. Now, when he tested positive, he had said that him and his wife, they really quarantine. They don't go anywhere. It's just them and their dog, and they don't go anywhere. And they stay, so they don't know where it came from. Now, when he tested positive and went on the COVID protocol, there was an article that came out that day and said the NHL is kind of assuming that every player on Vancouver is positive. And that would be like, okay, we went from step 1 to step 1,000. How did we get here? There's not information. Yeah. Well, it turns out that the entire coaching staff and over 20 players ended up testing positive. They have been off the ice for a few weeks. It was that bad. Now, Vancouver is also getting ravaged right now. Vancouver, when I say that, I mean the city of Vancouver. Let's not just talk about the hockey team. Apparently right now is getting ravaged by this Brazilian variant of the disease, which is one of these highly contagious ones. So it literally went through the entire hockey team. Now, the press was reporting, this was last week, some of these players are in really bad shape dealing with the virus. It then came out on an interview, and I believe it was with TSN in Canada, that a player said it's a little bit overblown when they're talking that the players are really bad. We have it. We're positive. We have the virus, but the symptoms are not as catastrophic as the media was making it sound. So now Vancouver's been off the ice. They will resume play later this week. I guess they got clearance from the NHL's doctors and and crew that is overseeing the situation. But now they've missed a ton of games, and the end of the season is coming up, actually, believe it or not, in 4 weeks. So the issue now is, can the league scheduling gurus find a way to get Vancouver to make up all their games? It is impossible if you think about with travel. Now, remember, because I shouldn't say remember, because you wouldn't know this. I'm going to say this as I'm just telling you that they're in the North Division. So the North Division is all Canadian teams. So Vancouver is about as far away from every other team in that division. And you are also, which is in the Pacific time zone, you're playing teams on the Eastern time zone. You're playing Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. That's a lot of travel. Probably I would venture to guess Vancouver travels more this year than any team in the NHL. So for them to make up the game in 4 weeks of a 2-week schedule they miss is impossible. So the NHL has said, look, we're going to try to come out and find a way to get them to make up as much as they can, but we may have to extend the regular season. So now you're going to possibly have a situation where, let's say, teams in the East that make the playoffs, their regular season ends May 8th. Right. But the playoffs won't start till May 17th because you're going to have to wait for the Vancouver Canucks to catch up.
Wow. So one, they shouldn't travel because they're going to spread this Brazilian disease all over the place. But two, at least they all got at the same time and knocked it all out of the park at once.
It is true. But it's scary if you think about, and look, the NHL, whatever their protocols have been so far have been pretty good, right? I mean, like, there's been some outbreaks. The Devils had an outbreak. The Dallas Stars had an outbreak. But it's been, knock on wood, somewhat controlled until now. So you almost wonder, like, what happened? And I'm sure the NHL has investigated, and they'll never tell you the answer, and that's fine. But what happened that made it spiral out of control? Was it something like the team was sharing water bottles one day at practice? I mean, it can be something so minute and so little that literally caused this. So we do send our good wishes and well wishes to the Vancouver Canuck organization. That is not just the players, because again, it is the coaching staff involved as well. And hopefully they get over COVID quickly, which it seems like they're on the path to, as the NHL is planning on resuming games with them this weekend. Now, yesterday, one of the more exciting days every year, and I'm sure you're not sitting by your phone to do this, that is the trading deadline.
Definitely.
Where every year you have your trade deadline at 3:00, and it's always usually. Well, I shouldn't say always. It usually is, and it was this year on a Monday. And I had said 2 weeks ago that the trading deadline was going to be very quiet compared to previous years, and I was right about that. So, and there's a couple reasons why. One, you have to remember it is not easy right now for Canadian teams and American teams to exchange players because of the travel issues, right? If I trade for you on Toronto right now, you can't play for 2 weeks. There's 4 weeks left in the season. So what am I giving up to get you to play for only 50% of the games that are remaining, right? So there's that. And it's also been such a weird year with taxi squads and all that stuff that it just kind of made for I don't want to say a lackluster trading deadline, but one that was definitely less exciting than previous years. So let's start with the New Jersey Devils and the move that they made. So the Devils last week, the Devils were clearly going to be a seller, right? If any team that is looking to sell, little 101 stuff here, although it's pretty obvious. If you're going to be a seller, you're a team that's eliminated and you're not going to, really have a chance to compete this year, you think, for the Stanley Cup, and you're going to try and bring back some future assets for a player that maybe would be a rental on a team that thinks they can make a run. And the New Jersey Devils probably had the biggest trading name on the block, or the biggest asset to offer someone on a rental capacity, and that being Kyle Palmieri. So you kind of knew the writing was on the wall. The Devils were going to trade Kyle Palmieri. They even kept him out of games, a few games last week before he was traded, because God forbid that he gets hurt and then you can't trade him, right? And then you have a guy, Kyle Palmieri, a second line guy, really, and is free agent at the end of the year. You don't know if he's coming back. Why have him stay here for 4 weeks to play meaningless games? Let's get rid of him and bring something back. So the New York Islanders really were named kind of the favorite early on to get him, and I don't think it was detective work as to why. Their captain Anders Lee tore his ACL a few weeks ago, and they needed to replace him, right? So kind of a good match. And the Islanders general manager Lou Lamoriello has plenty of history, obviously, with the New Jersey Devils. So they trade Kyle Palmieri to the Islanders. Now the Islander fans, from what I've read on like blogs and social media and all that stuff, are ecstatic. Would you be ecstatic, Dougie Sticks?
Well, here's my question first. They trade him. He's only got 4 games left, 4 weeks left on his contract. Now they trade him to the Islanders. Does that still mean he's only got 4 weeks left on his contract with the Islanders?
Right. So he's a rental. The Islanders are renting him.
So basically, the Devils are going to get him back. They're going to sign him.
No. He will become a free agent at the end of the season.
Do we think we're going to sign him back?
Well, okay, don't say we. I am not a Devil fan. So let's
all right.
clarify
that. Do you think the Devils are going to sign him back after?
It's possible. I mean, look, crazier things have happened. I mean, Sammy Vatanen, re-signed in the offseason with the Devils, and he was traded away, and then he was traded away actually again yesterday. But it's possible, but I don't think we can look at that. So here's my thought on this, right? The New York Islander fans are ecstatic, right? And look, Kyle Palmieri is a good player. He's not great. He's a good player. But this is where like the COVID stuff kind of is affecting what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The Islander fans have heard for weeks that the best player that's probably on the market to be traded is Kyle Palmieri. So now the Islander fans are excited because, hey, we got Kyle Palmieri. He's the best guy. But
you don't really have him.
No, you do. You have him for the rest of the season. But he's not like I'll give you the best example of a trade, and this is not biased, like a rental sort of situation. In 2013, the Rangers 2014, the Rangers on trade deadline day, which that year was a Wednesday, and I don't know why I remember that, traded for Marty St. Louis out of Tampa.
Okay.
That was an example of a guy coming in. He was extraordinarily productive. The team went on to the Stanley Cup Finals. It was worth the price that they sent to Tampa, which at that time was Ryan Callahan, who was completely overrated, but that's besides the point. So, but if I'm the Islanders right now, I'm not. I mean, it's a little overexcitement for Kyle Palmieri. He's good. I'm not, but he's not Anders Lee.
Stanley Cup.
He's not Anders Lee. I mean, I guess you can't replace Anders Lee. It's not fair to say that. Actually, I take that back. You can't just replace a captain like that. But I don't know. I just kind of felt like, because he's the primo get for this year, everybody's excited that they have him. And then the Devils also, which I think they probably were forced the Islanders to do, threw in Travis Zajac on the deal as well. So I'm not sure the Islanders were happy to take him, but they did. So if you're the Devils, look, the Devils did well because you know what? Here's a guy that instead of playing 4 meaningless weeks of hockey here, although you are playing the Rangers now the next 4 games we're going to get into in a little bit, they have the ability now to bring back some assets. And you're right. Could Kyle Palmieri come back in the offseason and play here again for them? Sure, he could. And the free agent market is going to be very bizarre this summer because you have some CBA stuff, collective bargaining agreement stuff going on that just went on, actually. And you already have one side unhappy. And then you also have the coronavirus situation. So who knows what's going to happen with Kyle Palmieri in the offseason or any free agent for that matter. But could he come back to New Jersey? Yes. But look, I mean, I guess if you're the Islanders, you needed to plug a hole. You plugged the hole. But let's not sit here and act like Kyle Palmieri, you just added Sidney Crosby here. Yeah. Right? I mean, even you know that.
Absolutely.
And
what did the Devils get in return?
The Devils got back assets, young people like draft picks. They got a first-round pick back. Now, but here's the thing you got to remember. That first-round pick is not going to go into the lotto machine like the Rangers got because they got Alexis Lafreniere, because you're getting the Islanders' first-round pick, and the Islanders are going to make the playoffs. So it will be a lower pick in the first round. Yeah. But look, for a guy who wasn't going to do much for you in 4 weeks, who cares? Yeah. Take the first-round pick. So the Devils did well. Give them credit. And we'll see it with the Islanders. Kyle Palmieri did score the other night on the Rangers. So he does have 1 goal in his 2 games out there. The other trade, and probably the bigger trade of the NHL, involves a former Devil, and that is Taylor Hall, who I have ripped on this program for various reasons. Taylor Hall, as a little bit reminder, had an MVP season here with the Devils in 2017 and 2018. Had an MVP season, took the Devils to the playoffs. They lost in the first round versus Tampa. And he really, if there ever was a definition of a player carrying an entire team or as close to that as possible, it was Taylor Hall that year. He then had a little bit of a decline the next year and then asked to be traded. Didn't want to play here. Got traded last year to the Arizona Coyotes. Why anybody wants to go play hockey in the desert is beyond me, except for the weather. And did not do well out there. Was a free agent, went to Buffalo, signed a 1-year, $8 million deal, claiming that he's going to Buffalo because he wants to win. Buffalo is the worst team in the NHL. They just lost 18 games in a row. How's that working out for you, Taylor Hall? Now, Give it to him. The other thing with Taylor Hall here as well, he has a whopping 2 goals last I checked on the season. So he's not even playing up to the $8 million contract. He is really...
He's almost got a hat trick this season.
He does. So Taylor Hall on a 1-year deal is going to either play meaningless hockey in Buffalo for the next 3 weeks, or a team that is playoff bound can take a flyer on him and take a chance that maybe he just wasn't performing in Buffalo because the team stinks. What team's going to take a chance on him? The Boston Bruins trade for him late Sunday night, and Taylor Hall will be playing his remainder of this season and the playoffs in Boston. So look, if you're Taylor Hall, and you know I don't like him, you went from the worst team in the league in Buffalo to a team right smack in the middle of the playoff chase, and team that was in the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago. So that is a major upgrade.
Yeah.
If you cannot produce with people like David Pastrnak and Patrice Bergeron and Charlie McAvoy and some of the names that are playing right now up in above North Station in Boston at TD Garden, then you know what? You're just if you can't produce here. So Taylor Hall is going to be under the microscope, because if he's going to get a good contract here again, he's got to produce right now in his new home up in Beantown.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is happening a lot with these rentals.
It happens every year.
Yeah, interesting.
If you're a team, but it makes sense, because if you're a team that is not going well, and I have a player that's going to be a free agent in the summer, give him to a team to make a run.
Makes sense that way. The other way, you're giving away a first round draft pick for someone who possibly won't even play for you next year.
Absolutely. That's the risk you take.
Yeah.
And so if you're the Devils, you know what? You know what? You can. The Devils and the Rangers, both a little bit different than the Islanders, are really in a youth movement right now. So if you're the Devils, you know what? You're contributing to the youth unit. You're getting some picks back, one of which is a late first rounder. So you know what? You do it. What do you need Kyle Palmieri here for the next few weeks? Now, with the Devils, this is really annoying. The Devils, I mentioned before earlier in the year, had some corona issues. And what happened is the NHL had to redo their schedule like they do for every team when there's a corona issue. And the Rangers and Devils this week were slated to play each other back-to-back games. Right now, because of the way that the schedule got redone, they're now playing each other 4 straight times starting tonight. They'll play tonight at Madison Square Garden. They will play Thursday at the Prudential Center. They will play Saturday at Madison Square Garden again. And then they will play Sunday at the Prudential Center again. So in the next 120 hours, the Rangers and the Devils will play twice.
It's like a Subway Series.
Yeah, and actually, I said it backwards. They're at the Devils tonight. Then they're home for 2 versus the Devils, and then back at the Devils. This is what you call overkill. Look, I normally, in a normal world, I love when the Rangers play the Devils. Matter of fact, I'm probably getting into those games more than any other games. Like, I love it and all that stuff. 4 times in 6 days is a lot.
That's what COVID's doing. I mean, it's an easy game to schedule. They're right next to each other.
Yeah, and I'm sure you are 100% right on that, and that being a factor as to why they are playing so many times. But it's like it loses its juice now when you're playing 4 times in a row, right? Now
the other do best of 3 series.
Now the other side of it is the NHL looks at it, and I don't agree with it, saying, okay, well, when you have a team that hates each other playing 4 times against each other, it gets the rivalry going, and people will hate it. Gets people really angry and juiced up. I don't know about that. 4 times is a lot. And then after we see the Devils on Sunday for the last time, we all will move on our way.
They should make a thing out of it. They should make it. It shouldn't be 4 games. It should be 3, and it should be the best of 3 mini series, like mini Subway series.
And what should they win?
A little mini ha trophy. Like literally, like
this is what the players want.
What's the mascot for the Rangers? They don't have a mascot.
No.
Well, it could be like the Jersey. Like if the Rangers win, it's like a decapitated New Jersey Devil mascot, and if the Devils win, it's a trophy of like the devil going ha ha.
Yeah. Well,
see, like in high school,
in your head,
and sport and like rivalries, they have like rivalry trophies.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But so here's what we'll do. In 2 weeks when we're back on,
we make them a trophy.
We will award the trophy.
Okay.
But you will have to decide what happens if the team split. So like if they each win 2 games and they're not in overtime, like what you need to do if you're going to judge this is each team can get a possible 8 points in the next 4 games. At the end, which team got the most points. And that will be your deciding as to who wins the first annual Dougie Sticks Hudson River Rivalry Trophy. Will depend on the River Rivalry. So with the Rangers, one issue that last time we were on, David Quinn, the coach, was coming off COVID, and the team had been playing really well, and it was like, hey, I don't know about this. The team's playing really well without David Quinn. So David Quinn's been back, and the Rangers really, look, I would say are maybe right now average. Well, no, they're average. Do I want to be nice and say maybe they're playing a little bit better than average? Yes. The issue remains, like, if you read anything, the hot topic with the Rangers remains the amount of ice time that the kids are getting. So these young players, Alexis Lafreniere obviously would be the main one, Capo Caco, Philip Hedl, all of these guys are not getting a lot of ice time. Alexis Lafreniere, and this is highly disturbing, is on pace for the lowest amount of ice time per number one draft pick in, I want to say, 18 years, which is I don't understand. That is disturbing. Why are we not giving them as much ice time as they should,
especially in a season like this where we're not expecting to make the playoffs? And like, I want to buy his jersey, and if he's not on the ice, it makes no sense.
I just thought if you want to buy his jersey, I believe that somebody that is sitting next to me is getting married in the fall. That could be a good wedding gift for that person. I will buy that person an Alexis Lafreniere jersey.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
You'll have to let me know what size you are at some point.
Medium, large. I don't know.
Medium, large. Well, hockey jerseys always shrink when you wash them.
So maybe I should go large.
Go large. Yeah. And you want
what do you rock?
I rock a large.
So I should probably rock a large too.
Yes, but I would say you're a little bit smaller.
I could put a sweatshirt underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you wear it. And you wear it in the winter during hockey season.
Yeah. When we go to the games, we go to the river rivalry series.
So we had talked about. I don't know if you remember this last summer. I think it was the summer, or maybe it was in the fall, that we would do some Mind Your Puckin' Business remote shows from games. But because of COVID, we haven't been able to do that. So if we are lucky enough that we can get to a world where we're able to do that in the fall or sometime next year, you will have a Alexis Lafreniere jersey.
Wow, wait. Now, if something happens and that's not the best jersey player to get, you have full range to get the best player. So don't say it has to be Alexis Lafreniere. He, like, knock on wood, doesn't get enough playing time. I want, doesn't have to be Alexis Lafreniere.
Okay.
You can have free range.
Maybe you'll be like an Artemi Panarin, like their best, their highest goal scorer. That would be you. So, last question I want to get to before we bail out for the show. I got a question the other day, and it's a good one, and I can't find the answer to it. I tried for you, bud. And that is, what is the NHL going to do when the playoffs happen? Because eventually the Canadian teams, whoever emerge out of that division, are going to have to play teams in the U.S. market. And to do that, you're going to have to cross the border. So how is it going to be done? That is a very interesting logistical question that the NHL is going to have to solve. Now, if you are, let's say you are the Toronto Maple Leafs, okay? And you finish first in the North Division. You've earned it, right? You've played your full season. You've earned home ice in that first round series within your division. That is no problem. You're going to have it. But what happens when you get to the semifinals if you win out and you're playing a team, let's say Tampa, right? And you had higher points during the year and you're supposed to have home ice, and the NHL says to you, you know what? You can't have it because you can't travel across the border. We're going to do this series in a neutral site. My guess is the NHL, for their Final Four, so when you have the three American conferences meeting up with the one Canadian conference, you are going to go to some form of a Final Four where it is a neutral site for all four teams. And it's unfair because teams that have earned home ice, the ability to play on home ice, even though, remember though, Dougie Sticks, the arenas right now are not packed. So home ice advantage is not what it normally is. But you know what? You earn the right to be home. You're not going to get it. I don't know. I would think what my guess right now, the NHL hasn't really said anything because they don't want to make a commitment to what the travel
things can change.
Things can change by July.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, it sounds like the Stanley Cup Finals will begin like somewhere around July 4th, which is also crazy because that's the middle of the summer, not normally hockey weather. Then the NHL has said they are planning to, for the 2021-2022 season, trying to get to a point where they will play in a normal season, but they will start it a couple weeks later. So as opposed to starting in the beginning of October, they will start at the end of October.
Two things. One,
yes,
even with everything you said with these Final Four, either one team's traveling or three teams are traveling across the border.
Correct.
Okay, so that still doesn't solve the problem.
Well, but remember, because it's a best of 7 series, it would be continuous travel. right? So you would be going, if you were Tampa, you would fly to Toronto for games
Gotcha.
1 and
So
2.
we can sneak them in one time.
Right. You can't
Maybe go to the south border rather than the north border.
Right, exactly. Which you probably would know where those spots are. Remember, I go to bed really early at night. Now, but yes, so the playoffs will be an interesting thing to see how the NHL does it.
Question number 2.
Yes.
Do they make ice that can weather outdoors in the summertime?
Absolutely
like
not.
An outdoor, you know how they do those outdoor series, whatever?
But never.
There's no such thing yet.
But there is.
That'd
but
be
it's
crazy.
in February in Canada. It's not in.
Yeah,
it's not in July
There's no
in Tampa.
machine that can like keep it cold while it's on.
No.
That'd be pretty badass.
Well, the NHL, if you remember, because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago in February, they did an outdoor series in Lake Tahoe, and they had trouble. The ice melted.
Really?
So, and that was Tahoe in February, not blazing. Tampa in July. We went with the kids to Disney. My wife is a teacher, so we can't really travel during the school year. So we, like if we're gonna take the kids to Disney, you have to go in the summer. Yeah. We took them to Disney couple summers in August. When I say it's hot, like it's not like the ice in your bottle when your Coke doesn't stay, so it's not skatable. Wow.
Interesting. So rollerblades then.
Oh, I would love that. That would be cool, actually. But it would never happen. But well, we thank you for tuning in today, and whether you were listening to us on iTunes, Facebook, Spotify, or YouTube, we always appreciate it. And remember, you can always send us your questions, and I'm glad we got to a bunch of them today at mypbshow@gmail.com. So when we are back on in 2 weeks, we will be 2 days away from the NFL draft. And the Jets will still be sitting at 2. They're not trading the pick. So we'll see what's going on with that. We'll kind of tune in and see how far Justin Fields has dropped on the mock draft, as Dougie Sticks is predicting. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what's going on in hockey. By then, we will be really about 2 to 3 weeks from the end of the season. And what we will do this year for the playoffs is what we did for last year in the playoffs is we will really cover each series. We'll try and break down, and I say we, I will try and break. No, well, you can give your prediction.
Who was watching the game last night?
You know what? Hold on. We got to give you credit. Yes.
Thank you.
Hold on. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago.
I am watching the Ranger Islander game, and the Islanders went up 2-0, and they scored a goal with 7 seconds left in the first period. And you never, ever, ever, ever want to give up a goal at the end of the period. It's like a sin. I get a text
7
from you.
7 seconds left.
I got a text from you about it, and I didn't even know what you were referring to because I didn't even think you would be watching the game, but you were.
Yeah,
I was impressed.
Bunch of morons. 7 seconds left. Come on.
Look, you know what?
And then they came back. They had a nice little comeback, and we were about to go to overtime, right?
Yep.
Or we were in overtime.
We were overtime and lost
and then
in a minute.
It was just a crazy, stupid goal they shouldn't have scored. Yeah,
look at you.
Watching.
We've turned you into a. You always were a good person, but we've turned you into a better person.
I get better every day.
I tell you.
I know, I know what's going on. You make it sound like I can't watch a game and know what's going on. I know what's going on.
Well, you know what's going on because you play Xbox.
Yeah,
so
are we going to play right now?
No, we're not. But don't be upset. Well, we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We will be ready to go, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your day.